Good morning and welcome to the C-Suite at the Open series. I'm Monica Ham, Client Success Specialist at the TMX here in Vancouver. Today I have with me Patrick McGrath, CEO of Blue Moon Mining. Good morning, Patrick.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And welcome. Just to get started, can you please provide an overview of Blue Moon's flagship project?
Sure. So it's the namesake of the company. It's Blue Moon. So Blue Moon is a polymetallic project, which means it has multiple metals. And that would include zinc, copper, gold, and silver. And what makes it attractive is that you do have those multi-elements, and roughly in terms of dollar values of the deposit is roughly split 50-50 between base metals and precious metals. And right now the resource sits at around 8 million tons. And that's around 8% zinc equivalent. So just in terms of contained metal, to give you a rough idea, that's around 750 million pounds of zinc. It's about 70 million pounds of copper, 300,000 ounces of gold, and around 10 million ounces of silver. So a broad range of metals in that group. And there's a lot of exploration upside, which I'll go into here shortly, but we think there's an ability to increase that dramatically. This is a VMS deposit, which is often found in clusters. So we found and identified one cluster, which is that 8 million tons. And often there's clusters along strike, which I'll go into a little bit more detail, where we think there's additional opportunities there.
Excellent. So just on the little bit of research I've done about Blue Moon, it looks like Blue Moon was a past producer. Does this help with the permitting process of a new mine?
For sure. So as you mentioned, it was a past producer. It was Hecla, which is a mid-tier base metal producer. Had the project during World War II. They put it into production. It was around 50,000 tons was produced at around 13% zinc. And that's obviously helpful having that legacy production. There's a legacy asset in production. And then more recently, you had Imperial Metals and Boliden, both mid-tier base metal producers. They had the project during the 80s and early 90s. They also did extensive work, including drilling, advanced metallurgical work. They show that these would produce clean concentrates. And then they ultimately took it to a permitting point where they permitted an 800-foot shaft. And with permitting an 800-foot shaft, they would have got approval from the local county, the state. All those things add to a legacy knowledge of the asset, legacy permits. So it's great for the project.
And I understand as well that the Blue Moon also owns the Yava Project in Nunavut. Would you be able to expand on this project a little bit?
Sure. That's another legacy Boliden asset that we inherited. It's a high impact exploration play. Just in a nutshell, we saw 5 holes that were drilled there historically, and just in those 5 holes near surface, they identified about 1 million tons of resource, which shows that this thing can get really big, really fast. And just on the other side of the geological belt there, it's Glencore's Hackett River deposit, which is at the feasibility stage. And that deposit is a massive zinc and silver project, around 50 million tons in inferred and about 25 million in indicated. So it's a very large project, and we think obviously our project on the other side of the belt has tremendous potential.
And what are some of the catalysts we should be watching for in 2021? And can you also give us some idea about the infrastructure surrounding the Blue Moon project?
Sure. So the big catalyst will be drilling. Late 2020, we announced that we got a 2.5-year extension on our drill permit. So that's what we want to do. We want to go drill the property pretty extensively. What we see is, we're going to do some infill on the deposit, but we see a lot of expansion opportunities. There's lots of areas where it's open. And then we see the blue sky exploration potential at Blue Moon, like I mentioned earlier, that we want to go in and see if we can find additional pods. In terms of infrastructure, this is where I think Blue Moon has a competitive advantage over some of its peer groups. in that, we're just a couple miles away from a paved highway. There's a hydro electric facility about 5 miles away. There's 2.5 hour drive to a port, 4 hours to Reno. So, we don't need to go build that highway. We don't need to build a port. All those things are already in place, which gives us a big competitive advantage. Can I also add too that, I am the largest shareholder of this company. And my background is that I purchased my position in the open market. And once I got to a large enough position, about 15%, I did take over as CEO of the company.
And just before we go, would you be able to give us an idea where we can go to find out more information about Blue Moon and what your ticker symbol is?
Sure. So our ticker symbol on the TSX Venture is Moon, like the planet Moon, MOON. And you can find more information on our website at bluemoonmining.com.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.